whoever, but are you aware that there is a lot of scientific studies on the other side that says that this is a controversial issue? I have seen some of the studies that you said, and I have seen some of the other studies. You know, so are you aware that it is, there is scientific studies on both sides of that issue and concerns?
Well, it's definitely been a concern, and a lot of work has been done on it. The papers that I've seen show that, like the intestinal permeability is not changed by those products.
But,
so,
okay, just so you know,
it has been a concern, and there's a lot of work that's been done, but it hasn't shown that there's
well,
a difference.
just so you're aware, there is a lot of studies on the other side. And let me just, and Mr. English, wouldn't you prefer to do and use a corn crop where you would not be adversely impacting your neighboring organic farmer? If you wanted to grow feedstock, you've got other options available in corn, and you want to do what's best for you, but it's also what's best for, we have a community here, you know, without risking it, and that's why in the ad hoc committee it's looking at how can one coexist. Let's look at the ways that if we can work it so that they can exist without what happened to Papaya, where all the organic farmers that were in that area got eliminated.
I'm not an expert on this, but as a lifelong egg producer and resident of this island, I've never come across anybody who I knew would do anything to harm their neighbor's operation.
And that's my fear, that you also aren't aware of how much impact it could be to others if you were doing the GMO choice.
It's using best management practices and communicating with your community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Yoshimoto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to remind council members, you know, we set today's meeting, and we had agreed that we would recess this to the 15th to allow other amendments to come forward. I don't think this would be wanted to move this forward, but just remind us, I thought that we were going to discuss in setting today's meeting.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that Fresh could do his amendments at the next meeting, not whether we're in committee or our council. I just think, as Mr. Kern said, let's move it forward and allow for about 2 more sessions, allowed for public.
Point of order, I didn't say move forward. I said we should do it before we have a meeting.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, I want to allow for those, if you would be the chair at that point, if you're saying that you would not want those introduced, then we can table it till the 15th.
Well, we can pull council members, but that was my recollection of the discussion when we said it. We had raised the point that he was going to be absent due to his travel plans, and so that's what I thought the understanding was. But that's not the understanding.
I just want to make sure he gets able to do his amendment. However, whether we do it moving that committee. I mean, we're trying to also move this along and stay on the dates, and I'm open to how the rest of the council wants to do that. I just want to make sure he has the opportunity. So if you, as the chair, said no way when I'm chair of council, then I would say definitely would stay in committee.
Go ahead.
So we need to, Madam Chair, we need to figure that out now as we move forward, because I'm not saying yes or no, because I thought we had that understanding.
Right.
We didn't.
And I think what was clearly understood by me is that he would have the opportunity to present amendments. So I just want to remind council people that we've had a lot of our bills move out of committee and done amendments at the county council level, because we always have 2 readings up there, but moving it out of committee into council and deal with amendments up there. So Councilmember Dennis Onishi would still have that opportunity to do his amendments at the council level as well. So he was just concerned of making sure that he could get his amendments heard and talked about. And we can do that at the council level also, correct, Councilmember Yoshimoto?
Well, yeah, we can do that. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, because if I misunderstood, then that's fine. I mean, because I'm not saying yes or no. I just want to make sure that we're not changing something. Because Mr. Onishi, he can't speak because he's not here. Right. But I thought that was, if I'm wrong, and that's fine.
I'm open if I miss.
Yeah.
I just
want and again, when we have council discussion, it happens here, and we get the vote. You know, regardless of his concern was getting his amendments heard and talked about, and that we have that open opportunity at council also. That's just, I'm just telling you guys, that it's not a dead-end street for a council member.
I just want to, in balancing out what we do, it's also the public. I know I'm getting a lot of push, like you guys are doing a lot, and let's have more public discussion on the amendments to come forward. And so not just calling people that we choose to call forward, but open it up to the public. We have 2 more times that we're going to have at least public, or in theory if it passes, twice more opportunity for the public to speak. I'm open either way, if we stay in committee or we go to council. That's.
Any other discussion on what we had heard at the last meeting? Because I'm in agreement with Councilmember Wille that, you know, we're allowing some of the people who we want to come up and ask questions and give like a quasi testimony, when we're not affording the rest of the public that same opportunity, which I feel is unfair. And I think I feel like I'm abusing my power as chair, continuously calling recesses so that we avoid public testimony. Or I'm not saying that we're avoiding it, but it seems that way. And I'm feeling like I'm abusing that because I really feel we need to be fair. Because last meeting, we called a lot of people, it sounded like testimony. This is again coming like testimony. I feel like I need to afford that opportunity to the rest of the public, the general public as well. Because testimony is testimony. So, okay, should we continue on discussion on Bill 113? Councilmember Eoff?
Thank you. I just wanted to throw a couple of thoughts out here. Whether we pass it to council today, it will pass to council if we take a vote with either a positive or negative recommendation, at which time we can amend it further. I wanted to just state a few thoughts, and Ms. Wille, since this is your bill, just for you to either consider or to reply to me, because I haven't been able to ask you this any other way. The article title has kind of been troubling to me, although you did change it to take out the word "from harm," which helps. So currently the title of the article would read, "Protecting Hawaii Island's Agricultural Heritage and its Ecosystems from Genetically Engineered Organisms." I know that is restated again in the purpose in some way, but for me, I'm thinking that the title of the article would be more appropriately something simple, like relating to the regulation of genetically modified organisms. I'm a little uncomfortable with the title of the article. That's just one thing. You don't have to answer me right now. I just wanted to put a couple of thoughts.
Did you want her to answer you? Or?
Okay.
I'm open to that.
It's for to consider. Yeah. Okay. And one other thing, a couple other things. In the prohibitions, and Mr. Kanua alluded to this earlier, that we all felt comfortable trying to prohibit the open field testing of experimental seed corn, for instance. That's something that I think all of us were trying to accomplish in the form of a bill. We agree, I think a lot of us agreed to that idea because of the associated farming practices that we felt could be harmful to the environment. And that direction kept us focused on something that's slightly different and less controversial than trying to decide if the ingestion of genetically modified foods is harmful or not to us, which is where Mr. Ilagan's line of questioning starts to go, which I didn't think needed to be addressed at this time for Hawaii Island's prohibition. And I'm not sure if there's a way we can keep the focus on that by further refining the prohibitions by focusing more on open field testing of experimental seed crops. That's another point. And you can either respond or I can go on.
I have a big problem with that, where you're only limiting it to, in other words, what's not regulated. So if it's only prohibiting testing, because if you just take where someone is using some tested corn, or some new test comes out like grass, they're coming out with new grasses, and that goes and runs down into somebody else's field, whether it was tested or not tested, it does the same harm to that farmer, or that, like say, looking at the flour mill farmer. So
I do understand the cross-pollination issue.
That's what my whole bill is geared to, that soil and that protection of those other ag farmers. And I don't see that the feds are doing, just reading currently what they're deciding not to regulate. There's a lot of things that are not just going through an exception and not being considered experimental or test. I think it just does like a tiny bit that's really doing close to nothing.
Yeah, and I go back and forth on what you just stated. Another concern, I'm not sure if I clearly understand two more things. In the exemptions, I don't understand why there's a separate exemption for papayas. I'm not sure why they couldn't, that wouldn't be included in the first number one. Why they have to be, why they have to be two separate statements.
Basically, the papaya industry is getting a preference, and the whole industry is here. It's basically become a GMO, at least in GMO. And you wouldn't, if you went to buy seed, or you look at what your papaya might be growing in your yard or my yard, who knows what it is? It's pretty much, it's out of the cows out of the barn.
So wouldn't they be included in the first one?
No, because number one is just exempting, the papaya could go to a different location. A new person could come in, you could start becoming a GMO farmer. It basically says this is the one industry, GMO industry, that's basically become established.
Okay, so then if I'm to understand what you said, with papaya, there can be new crops or new acreage.
New places, new acreage, new people involved. And the other, where we have minimal and we're trying to draw the line.
Would be restricted to where it's already being grown.
Yes. So if Dru's doing it right now, he gets to keep going. If Zendo's not doing it, forget it, at least for the time.
But then land that currently doesn't have GM papaya growing could in the future be used for that.
Yes.
That's why the two
And
exemptions
the
are
only
separate.
thing there on the papaya was to be able to register it. So say in my district, there are actually quite a few people who come to me who are starting and doing organic GMO. And when, and that they would at least organic GMO, organic papaya. Organic papaya. So I want to make it, and it may be that on the registration that not all that information becomes public. In other words, it may be just by district, not give out their exact location. Those are all things that could be done, but trying to gain knowledge and know what is going on. That's the, so that differentiates the papaya are basically free to do exactly what they're doing now, any place, anywhere, anyone, whereas all the others that are not really come in and become an established industry, at least until we look at how to do coexistence on this island, it says no, the door's closed for the time being.
One more question. With the registration, is that something that is public knowledge then, or is that just kept for purposes of the department that's in charge of?
Well, I think that's something that we could work on and sort of balance out. Like I said, if it was only, at least for the public to know what districts, take for example one organic papaya grower in North Kohala. He spends a great deal of money constantly checking to see if there's any GMO introduced or resulting in his crop, because if an inspector comes by, he loses his certification of organic. But if he knew, no, there's no GMO in my district, he would be able to do it much more economically, and there would be others wanting to get involved and do the same thing. So I'm trying to also balance between the GMO papaya growers and the organic papaya growers that are really starting out.
Thank you very much. I know you're anxious to move the bill forward, given the concern of having it on our books. And I'm not opposed to keeping it in committee one more time if that doesn't take us over the agenda. Because there may be some benefit to keeping the discussion here. But I think we should talk about forming the ad hoc committee today too then, and see who's willing to serve on that, and what we could accomplish with the formation of the ad hoc committee. I'm curious to ask the Corporation Council some questions about that too.
Okay, so right now, I'm going to call on Brenda Ford, but at this time we're going to try and connect. So I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. Excuse me, the meeting is now in order. I'd like to call on Councilmember Ford.
Thank you. I'm calling I'd like to call on Dr. Stephanie Seneff. She's on the Eastern Seaboard. Dr. Seneff, would you explain what your PhD is in? And then I've got a couple of questions for you.
Okay, well, hi, I'm Stephanie Seneff. I'm from MIT. I have a bachelor's degree from MIT in biology with a minor in nutrition. I have a PhD in computer science from MIT.
Thank you. First question, doctor. You had written the review, the glyphosate suppression of cytochrome P450 enzymes and amino acid biosynthesis by the gut microbiome, pathways to modern diseases.
That's right.
You co-authored this.
Co-authored, yes, with Anthony Samsel.
All right, thank you. We have to keep this really short, so I need short answers. Would you please explain dysbiosis, impaired sulfate transport, and suppression of the activity of various members of that particular cytochrome family of enzymes? Really short.
Okay. Glyphosate messes up the gut bacteria, and it causes an overgrowth of the pathogens, which causes lots of problems, colitis and inflammatory bowel, all these kinds of problems that people are having. It depletes important micronutrients, rare minerals like cobalt and molybdenum, zinc, and manganese. These are really, really important atoms that have a major role in allowing enzymes to work properly, important enzymes. Glyphosate disrupts the synthesis of essential amino acids. These are aromatic amino acids as well as methionine. These are really, really important to the function of the body. And then it disrupts both sulfate synthesis and sulfate transport. I've identified sulfate deficiency as a key factor in autism, Alzheimer's disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. I mean, just about everything is happening today. So I think glyphosate is the most important toxic chemical in our environment today. I feel very confident that I'm right about that.
Excuse me. Yeah, thank you. And the reason why I'm letting now, because I've allowed one about the body and nutrition, even if, so I'm going to allow, that's why I allowed that question to go through.
All right. Thank you, doctor. Because of time, I'm not going to ask you more questions, and I really appreciate the fact that you stood by all this time. It's quite late where you are right now, so I'm going to let other people ask you questions if they have any, and then I have another person.
Okay.
Any questions on, okay. Councilmember Ilagan, do you have a question?
Oh, no, I don't.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Wille?
Good day, doctor. One of my concerns, say with magnesium and those trace minerals, is that that depletion affects the most vulnerable populations. I mean, it just appears as if it's our children, our infants that are the most affected. Or in this county, my concern is also, say, with the Hawaiians, which tend to be affected by those type of chronic diseases, whether it's the diabetes and things that those trace minerals would help to prevent. So I know some people here said, well, look how healthy I am. I've been eating.
Margaret, can you ask her a pointed
Okay, so
question?
I just want you to comment on that and just looking at, am I off the wall? Or it doesn't seem like there are more vulnerable populations, say with youth or certain ethnic groups.
I think so. I mean, one of the issues is simply dark skin, because sunlight is a very important factor in sulfate synthesis. So with dark skin, you end up with a vitamin D deficiency, basically, to say it shortly. So that gives you extra vulnerability. Also, I think if you're on an economy budget, you're going to tend to buy more processed foods, which are depleted in nutrition. So you get these major deficiencies showing up more prevalently in people who don't have a lot of money to spend on food.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilmember Ilagan, you have a question?
Madam Chair, I just want a clarification because, as you stated before, we should stay away from the food safety.
Yeah, but we had allowed them to talk about the...
Right, I'm just saying, am I allowed to ask?
Now you can ask her, because you opened it up earlier and I said I would have allowed it. So now what I allow, I have to allow for everybody, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to, I didn't want to break any rules that you established.
Yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
So, Doctor, I had a question about, you said that the glyphosate had these ramifications. Now, when it comes to what's the dose or what's the quantity, what exactly needs to occur for that to happen?
I mean, that's a good question, and I can't answer it because we have actually very poor monitoring of how much glyphosate is in the food. However, I will say, for example, that a recent practice of desiccating wheat right before the harvest or ripening sugarcane right before the harvest makes me believe that we're getting a lot more glyphosate in our food than we used to. You also have, of course, the GMO crops, the corn, the soy, the canola oil, and it's been very well documented that the usage of glyphosate has gone up quite substantially in the last 10 years as a consequence of the super weeds that are developing because of those crops. So Europe has done measures of glyphosate in urine and has found 43% of the people they measured across multiple countries in Europe tested positive for glyphosate in the urine. These were people living in the city who would not have been expected to be exposed to agriculture.
Thank you.
So it's in the food, but it's not being tested because it's considered to be perfectly safe.
Okay. So thank you for and what we're doing, Doctor, just I've asked them to ask pointed questions, and as much as possible for the person being called up to give a short answer to their question, because we're not allowing testimony. So I don't want it to turn into testimony, so thank you though. Councilmember Ilagan, you still have the floor?
Doctor, I have more questions for you, and I wanted to also ask, did you, in your research, did you look into, you said you mentioned the GMO crops, did you also look into glyphosate in conventional farming?
I mean, it's used when it isn't GMO, for example, on wheat and on sugar cane. I think it's bad there too, but I think that when you look at the correlations, there's remarkable correlations between the use of GMO and the rates of autism in America, also of obesity and diabetes and Alzheimer's. All of these things correlate very, very strongly with the use of glyphosate on GMO, corn and soy specifically on that.
So what I'm hearing is that since there's been a rise of GMO, there's been also a rise of autism. And,
yes.
And there's no other variables in that? Just because.
Well, there are obviously many other variables in autism, but the correlation between the GMO, both the GMO crop development and the glyphosate usage on GMO are extremely strongly correlated with the autism as measured in the school system. It's a remarkable, I have never seen such a good correlation coefficient as you see between those two things. Correlation does not necessarily mean causation, but in this case, I think it's extremely striking.
So what I'm hearing is that it's glyphosate that you're really concerned about.
Yes.
Whether that's spray on conventional or GM crop.
That's right.
Okay. So I just wanted to really understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Councilmember Wille?
Do you believe that it's adequate to just prohibit experimental GMO crops versus a broader prohibition against the spread of GMO crops, regardless of whether they're experimental or, non-experimental? Do you think
I'm not sure I got that question. How do I feel about GMO regardless of whether it's experimental? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, do you think it's adequate for us to just prohibit experimental GMO?
I believe that the GMOs that are specifically engineered to have resistance to pesticides, to herbicides in particular, starting with glyphosate, I think they're probably developing resistance to dicamba and 2,4-D and all the other ones, atrazine. I think that once you have multiple resistance, which is what they're working on, glyphosate plus, I would call it, I think it's going to be extremely damaging to our health because glyphosate disrupts your ability to metabolize and detoxify other environmental chemicals. Okay, so the combination is going to be, I think, especially bad.
So,
looking forward.
In your opinion, regardless of whether it's been designated as experimental or non-experimental, the increased use of GMO crops and the associated pesticides should be eliminated, should be prohibited.
I believe so. I think eventually the only solution that's actually going to work in the long run is to go organic. I think that we need to really have a surge in the growth of organic products. That's the only way we're going to get out of the situation that we're in right now, I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much. There's no more questions, but did you have one more question for her?
No, I have a question for her.
No, okay. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry about the
waiting.
Technology problems, but at least it finally worked. So
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Councilmember Ford still has the floor.
Thank you. Dr. Renee Dufault. Doctor, just push the bar, the button, the bar on the bottom of the thing, the red light will come on. Please identify yourself by name and explain your educational background.
My name is Renee Dufault, and my educational background is about bachelor's in environmental science and master's in teaching.
I'm sorry, we missed
that.
that.
Speak up a little bit or raise your mic.
Oh, there.
Hello?
Yes,
okay.
Good.
My educational background is that I have a bachelor's in environmental science and a master's in teaching, and I'm working on my doctorate in health education. My experience is 20 years as a public health service officer, 9 of those years working for the Food and Drug Administration, and I'm very well aware of how drugs, medical devices, and food ingredients are regulated in the United States. I also worked for the Environmental Protection Agency for 4 years in my 20-year public health service career.
Thank you. That's more than sufficient. My first question is, when you worked for the EPA or the DOA or all of those different places, was there a bias towards allowing genetically modified crops to be authorized, permitted, whatever you want to call it, versus doing more hard science to determine the bad side of things?
I don't know that I can say there's a bias, but the way that things are regulated in our country these days, and it has been for many, many years, many before most of us were even born, is corporations or manufacturers of products, regardless of whether it's drugs, food, or medical devices, or pesticides, they have to provide their data to the government. And in the olden days, the government actually had the funding to sort of review and do their own studies to see if the manufacturer's data was correct. Nowadays, that does not happen at all. Basically, it's taken on faith, and so manufacturers can, and I know of several cases of manufacturers submitting false data or incomplete data or not reporting their findings.
Great, thank you. I'm going to stop you there. Next question. Is there any evidence to suggest genetically modified glyphosate tolerant crops such as GMO corn contribute to the increasing prevalence of autism and ADHD?
Yes, there's quite a bit of evidence, and my colleagues and I have published on those issues extensively, autism and ADHD. But for it's a tongue twister, glyphosate in particular, when you use, the GMO crops are modified so that you can spray this glyphosate on them. And so we know there have been studies here in the United States that show that whether you live on a farm or not, the mothers, the fathers, and the children are exposed to glyphosate in the residue on the foods. So we know this. And so the problem comes with the sensitive populations, the children. So what we're seeing is increasing prevalence of autism and ADHD associated with the consumption of GMO corn in the form of high fructose corn syrup. So, for example, here in Hawaii, while the population from 2005 to 2010 only increased 5.3%, the prevalence of autism here in Hawaii is up 31.2% in that same time period.
All right, thank you, Doctor. I have to stop at this point.
He wants to go
Excuse me, can we just have quiet in those speaking? If you want to speak, just feel free to go outside. Thank you. Councilmember Ilagan?
Is it doctor?
No, you can just call me Commander.
Push them. No. Push them. Thank you.
You can call me Commander.
Yes,
Retired public health service.
Okay.
But I'm working on my doctorate. In about 18 months, you can call me doctor.
Okay.
But you can look me up on PubMed, and I've published lots of stuff.
Yes, Commander.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, with the GM foods, which ones are you concerned with? But the thing is, I'm gonna actually take the higher ground on this one and step away from it, because the reason why we're even the prohibition is regarding the cultivation and propagation and development or testing. And as Councilmember Eoff mentioned, that's where we should focus, because that's what the bill is regarding. So I wanted to ask you, are you knowledgeable on anything with the cultivation and the production or the development or testing of genetically modified crops?
I am not knowledgeable. The only thing I'm aware of is that they are modified so that you can use specific herbicides. And so that's the herbicides and the insecticides, the pesticides, that are what are the problem.
Okay. Thank you, Commander. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Wille?
I read a U.S. geological study showing, was focused primarily on, I think it was Iowa or Idaho and Mississippi. And what it showed was that in Iowa, the impact on the environment, the soil, the water, the air, there was some, but it was moderate. But then looking at Mississippi, which instead of having one season, has 9 months of season, it was pervasive, and including the impact on the water, the surface water, the air. It was basically as if it was stagnant from 9 months of cultivation, planting, and this. Our state has 12 months. So I look at Kauai, and here it is, the incredible difference between the impact on the people in a southern state with 9 months of harm and what's happening there. And then I look at, we're 12 months. I mean, Hawaii wasn't being studied, but it was just such a differential between the 3-month crop cultivation and the 9-month, and looking at us as 12 months and the impact on the health, and looking at Kauai. I didn't know whether you've read any of the reports on Kauai or see this, that sort of that difference, just sort of the total, just.
Point of order?
Yes.
I just hope we could get to the question.
Okay.
I asked her to comment on it.
Difference in pesticide exposure?
But, yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Because of the longer growing season?
Turn your mic on.
I need a question that you need to know.
Have you done any research in that area?
I have not.
Oh, you might.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you done any research in that area as to the relative impact depending on the length of the growing season, whether it was on health or otherwise?
In the field of toxicology, that would go to the dose-response relationship, and the exposure length, that would go to the exposure length. So having a longer exposure time obviously is not good. That means you're going to be exposed to more.
Thank you.
Any other questions for her? Okay, thank you so much. Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think, well, probably the council knows, but we can't have an ad hoc committee and be having the discussion of these bills at the same time. So either the bill goes forward and it goes to whatever place it goes, and then there's an ad hoc committee that would be formed. If it passes an ad hoc committee, that would be formed to look at amendments. Or if they were postponed right now, then there could be an ad hoc committee formed, and we wouldn't take up discussion again until there was recommendations from that ad hoc committee. So we're at a place, everybody knows how I feel about it, but we're really not, we're still going around and around. And it doesn't appear that Ms. Wille is willing to do that. So we should just vote already, because I don't think we're really getting any further by just discussing.
So if you're about to call for the question, I would really like to give my, before you call for the question, allow me to say what I want to say.
Absolutely, that's fine. And I also give Ms. Wille the opportunity to, if we want to postpone and actually do the ad hoc committee, I'm open to that too, but we should just, otherwise we should just vote already. You know.
So, is everybody okay with me?
Excuse me, point of order.
Okay.
I have to disagree with part of what Mr. Kern said. I don't think, I'm sorry. I have to partially disagree with Mr. Kern. We could pass the bill all the way through council and have the ad hoc committee going on separately, that we don't have to do this. My understanding is we can pass this bill and then do the ad hoc committee.
Point of order on conferring with our corporation counsel, that's not how it would work.
And I don't.
Oh, okay. Does anyone need corp counsel? Can you come to the table so you can clarify this point? So the question is, should the bill go move forward to council? Are we able to work on an ad hoc committee?
Okay, Kathy Carson, Assistant Corporation Counsel. No. I checked with OIP, and if you form the ad hoc committee and the ad hoc committee begins their work now, then discussion, and it overlaps, that whatever you ask the ad hoc committee to do has to do with GMO. You cannot have any further discussion on the bill until that ad hoc committee reports back.
So if the bill goes, okay, so say, so if the bill goes through and we have Bill 113 in place, the council cannot set up an ad hoc committee to look at more revisions or anything on Bill 113?
Okay, if you pass the entire bill, it goes through 2 readings, okay? So it's done, it's passed, it's a law. You can have the ad hoc committee formed then to then go back and look at, do you want amendments? After, so it's after the fact.
So you can't do that?
Really understands that, yes.
Okay.
What you can't do is have 2 different tracks at the same time. You can't have the bill going forward and have the ad hoc committee doing their research, because then you violate sunshine.
Okay. And the same for a task force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, basically, yes, it depends on how you different.
I agree with what she's saying.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm saying, go pass the bill all the way forward, and then do your ad hoc committee later.
Okay.
The only reason to do the ad hoc committee now is to stop this bill, which is what's going on.
No, yeah, the reason why the law is there is so the whole purpose of the ad hoc committee is supposedly to investigate matters that are board business. So if you consider the GMO bills board business, then you're really saying, hey, we need more information, so you form the ad hoc committee. So that's why you're waiting on the bills while the ad hoc committee goes and does all their research, reports back, then you have discussion.
Okay. Okay, so that answers that. So can I, before you guys call for a question, can I summarize? I'll say what I need to say. I have concerns about GMO like we all do. I have concerns that I may be eating GMO and how much can my gut, maybe my gut can take and handle all of that, but how much can my gut take? I'm afraid of that. I don't know enough about that to say that it's safe because I haven't really heard clear studies. And until we hear more studies on that, I'd like to say no more open field testing. I don't know what's going on. In my community in Ocala, we have, you know, corn, GMO corn growing. I don't know if so much, I saw a lot of it when I traveled home yesterday, and it kind of made me scared. I gotta be truthful. It made me scared to think that are they gonna spray all this Roundup that the wind comes straight down to our community. We've been having the smell from the dairy for years come down. Now if we're having that smell, that tells me that the wind is carrying something. If it's carrying smell, it's going to carry other things. I'm afraid. So I don't see a reason why we shouldn't, and I was honest with both sides, the people who are pro-GMO and anti-GMO. I would like to see the standstill. There's no harm in doing a standstill. To me, it's just doing business as usual right now without allowing anything else in till we can make sure that we are safe and our food supply is safe and the air is safe and that I'm not going to be waking up, and it may be just a coincidence that I'm waking up with headaches every morning. It may be because I sleep with my doors open, you know, the screen doors, and it may be a coincidence. I don't know, but I know I can smell dairy. It may be a coincidence, I'm saying. But we don't know enough about it. I don't know what it can do. I would like to see a standstill. I would like to see Bill 113 go through, and then we work on that ad hoc. Because what will go wrong? You're still doing business as usual. There's nothing. If a new virus comes in, you still have to get rid of your crop, and the university will still be in the lab testing. The reason why, too, I'm saying open field testing is I talked to some of the hunters, and there was some spray done in the forest that accidentally killed the rose apple. So, and they said it was because of accidental type of spraying. So that tells me they're killing, you know, what if we ate, what if my kids were up in the, you know, my grandkids up in the forest, and we used to eat guava, guava, we used to never come home for lunch because we could eat gulch food or we could eat forest food, you know. But now, can we really eat forest food? I'm afraid, you know, so I'm saying that there is no reason why we shouldn't just put a standstill. Everybody's going to do business as usual. There's no harm in that. All we're asking is for some time to study this and then to move forward. And when I spoke with some farmers, some cattle ranchers, and I asked, if this bill goes through in the next 6 to 12 months, if something should, a virus is, what would be the crisis that you would be in that would, if this bill wasn't in place also? the same thing, so it doesn't make a difference. There was no really reason why it couldn't be in. I couldn't get that out of anybody. You know, give me a reason. What would the crisis be? They still had to shut down the farm if a virus, or clean that out and then study and how to get the virus taken care of. That would be taken care of, not from open field testing, but in the lab, which the UH is doing now. So I am supporting moving 113 forward and looking at the ad hoc committee, because I don't see a reason not to push it through, since we're going to be doing business as usual. So that's where I stand. I just summarized. It's, you know, so, we're gonna call for the vote for Bill 113 to move forward to council, or it's gonna move forward to council one way or the other. The bill will say if it will move forward with a negative or positive recommendation. So, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the vote for Bill 113, please?
Ms. Eoff?
Aye.
Mr. Ilagan?
No.
Mr. Kanua?
Kanua.
Mr. Kern?
Kanua.
Ms. Wille?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto?
Kanua, no.
Mr. Kanua?
Aye.
Mr. Kern?
Aye.
Chair Poindexter, you have...
I have to
She
vote.
gets to...
Oh, I'm sorry. Chair Poindexter?
Aye.
Chair Poindexter, you have 6 ayes.
So Bill 113 moves forward to council with a positive recommendation. So Mr. Clerk, we are now on
Communication 394.
394. So I guess you could read that into the record, then we can talk about should we discuss it, or at this point, Ms. Wille, would you want to would postpone that to the call of the chair?
If we're going to discuss it, we should have a point where we should read it into the record, so she could postpone it.
Okay.
Unless she's going to withdraw.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, will you please read in Communication 394?
Communication 394, discussion and formation of an ad hoc committee relating to genetically engineered crops and plants, from Councilmember Margaret Wille, dated August 15, 2013.
May I have a motion to approve Communication 394?
Motion to approve Communication 394.9.
Okay. It's been 394. So it's been moved by Councilmember Wille and seconded by Councilmember Ford. So any discussion, Councilmember Wille?
Okay. If all of you have the ad hoc committee, I tried to put in as many questions as I heard from members through the discussions today, so that we really were hearing both, looking at it from economic, short-term economic, long-term economic, environmental, and cultural issues. But I'm not sure how much I can discuss, so
I'm just wondering how much you would want to discuss, because like we had spoken before with our corp counsel, that if we want to move the bill forward, we can either move the bill forward and vote on it, pass it, and then do the ad hoc committee, but we cannot do the ad hoc committee while the bill is moving forward. So do you want to...
Okay, I just want to say I think this is very important. I'm committed to it, and I think everybody read it. It has a report back within a year or less. So I'll postpone it to the call of the chair.
Second.
Okay, so it's been postponed to the call of the chair by Councilmember Wille, seconded by Councilmember Ford. All in favor, say aye. Go ahead.
Discussion.
Oh, discussion, I'm sorry. Discussion on the postponement.
So to be really clear, this moves forward to the council. So the chair would be chair of the council. Is that correct? Or would it be the chair of this committee?
No, chair of the committee
Which would be Ms. Ford?
would be Ms. Ford,
Okay.
yes, because it goes back. I'm just a temporary because she introduced the bill and Margaret introduced the bill.
Is that your intention, Ms. Wille?
Yes, unless she comes up with her own ad hoc committee bill.
Well, no, because,
Okay. Okay.
no, just to be clear,
No,
because,
I'm clear.
right, because if, and I know your colleagues, right, but if Ms. Ford should say, hey, forget it, I'm not agendizing it, you're stuck, just so you know, and I don't know what she'll do or not,
Okay.
I won't predict, but just so you know the pitfalls, and the path that you go, but.
And remember what we talked about before, when you try to agendize it on the proper committee, you can also not go to that committee, because remember that happened before. So there's another option if Ms. Ford would decide not to. Don't make any promises yet. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so, discussion of postponement. Go ahead.
And just on Jay's question, does that make sense, or should we continue with Valerie, since they're pretty much the two bills as a package? I'm okay either way. I'm just looking for whatever anybody else has any comment.
Let me finish the thought.
Okay.
The real simple way
Go ahead.
is withdraw it, when you're ready to bring it forward, bring it forward. Then
No,
you have.
I want to postpone.
You want, okay, because the other way, you have complete control. The other way.
I
you might-
trust everyone on this council,
Okay.
I truly do, to not do something like that.
Okay. Councilmember Ford on the postponement?
I'll support the postponement, and I promise you can have it. I'm not going to write any more ad hoc bills on this issue. Thank you.
Councilmember Eoff, do you have your mic on? Are you?
Yeah, I think Mr. Yoshimoto answered my question, whether the chair of that committee would have to serve as the chair of the ad hoc committee. He said no.
No. Okay. Okay. Any other questions on the postponement? No questions. Okay. Roll call vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
I mean voice vote. Yeah. Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. So, where is it? Sorry. Okay. Communication 394 is postponed to the call of the chair. This ends our committee. What else do we have on here?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
even though Bill 109, which is the bill I wrote, is on the agenda, I don't know if it showed up on your agenda, it showed up on mine. The reason it's not being discussed is that we voted on it last time, it got a negative recommendation, and it's going up to council with a negative recommendation. Only reason,
No, it's being referred.
oh, I'm sorry, it's being referred to the Environmental Management Commission. Until it comes back to this committee, then we'll vote on it again at that point in time. So that's the reason we're not talking about it now. It's over at the Environmental Management Commission.
Okay. Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
Point of
Yes,
order.
go ahead.
Do we still have communication 404?
No, that was called out of order, yeah, at the last meeting.
Thank you very much. So second.
Okay, so I didn't hear. Do I have a motion? Did somebody make a motion?
I did.
Okay, so it's been moved by Councilmember Wille and seconded by Councilmember Kern. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.
Okay, I gotta talk now.
So what that means to us that public started.
No, not just I want to be
So I think we gotta take about, we gotta be about maybe a quarter to 4. So I can come from here and I think. We're Good evening. I can go. What will you? Okay. Maybe we can pick you up.
I honestly
service station. Oh, and you come in, you start going up the hill on the right side. Okay, yeah, I can take that. So I think we're gonna leave Hill about 4:20. I pick you up at your house. And then you give me an address. And then we drive, and then maybe we have a cell phone. And I can catch you for the meeting. I think we get there, if you need parking for, probably we'll get there maybe 5:30.
Honolulu, it's like
at least you let a chance. I'm surprised. Never use that word again.
they actually did a different one last year.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know. I think you would send me.
But he gets a no. He gets a
See what happens. They still move football.
But it reminds me that what he was doing, he was doing but